Hello, hello. Welcome to another edition of Ask Me Anything. I'm Linden Tibbets, IFTTT's founder and CEO. Excited to chat with you all today. Without further ado, I'll give you a quick update. It's been, I think, a couple months since we've done one of these sessions. Our team has been incredibly busy. A lot of exciting things happening just in the last couple months, from closing over 600 bugs and issues, small issues, medium issues, big sized issues. Really excited. We had a nice kind of focused month and a half session just looking to kind of pay down some of the bug and technical debt that we've incurred over the last year or so. We've also improved things like the uptime and responsiveness of all of our platforms, web and mobile apps, the reliability of our backend, all the triggers, queries, and actions. Some really great things happening there. And I think most exciting of all, we introduced kind of applet editing, the ability to use all of the new cool pro features, things like queries, multiple actions, filter code in applet edit mode. So if you've already created an applet, or even if you've used or enabled an applet from someone else, you can now add those things to them after the fact. So really big change there. And really on the horizon for us, we're really excited to be launching some huge new services just here in the next 1 or 2 weeks. So stay tuned for some big new services on IFTTT. It's been a while since we've seen some really large consumer services. We've, of course, seen a lot of great stuff on the IoT front, some really cool startups recently, but we're going to bring some of the heavy hitters back as well. So really excited to see that coming on the horizon. One other quick update. I think one of the reasons that we invested in and introduced IFTTT Pro back in 2020 was to really justify building out and investing in the team around that. And making sure our team is able to kind of keep pace with a lot of the things that our end users have been asking us for, in some cases for years. And so excited to announce we've started hiring at a much faster pace. You know, we've always been lean and mean, really amazing, smart, crafty, scrappy team. But now we're going to start to grow and hopefully get up to a size that allows us to do all the cool things that we know we'd want to do. So we've hired a couple folks on the engineering side, a couple folks on the marketing side, hired a new designer, all really smart folks that have hit the ground running just here in the last couple months. So excited to see that. And one last thing, a quick reminder. I know some of you here on the live stream have written into pro support since we introduced it. We've been steadily making progress in our response times, but also trying to maintain the kind of level of quality of support that we've had over the last few months, and now have gotten it down to 24 hours for the first response, and really close to 24 hours for any follow-up responses. And we're going to be condensing that even further. So know that we've been working on that. And if you've reached out and wonder about, kind of where a certain support request or ticket is over the last couple months, thank you for your patience. And, we're continuing to work our butts off to make that experience even better over time. So yeah, with that, would love to start kind of opening things up to questions. I see a number of you have already started posting in the chat. Please post your questions in. And don't hesitate to ask me the hard ones. So happy to answer anything you throw my way. And yeah, we'll kick things off. So the first question looks like a feature request from Peter Beans is asking, he'd love to be able to save your Twitter bookmarks to Google Sheets. I maybe am not familiar with Twitter bookmarks. Is that Twitter favorites or likes? Maybe give me a little bit more info there, but it sounds like that's a new trigger request. Yeah, if we don't have that, then it seems like a really obvious and cool one to build. Tree4Par, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, is asking, why is it so expensive over a yearly cost when if this and that was free? Yeah, we introduced Pro back in September of 2020. We really worked to try to figure out how to get to a price point that made sense for how people valued our service. That's why we launched with the set your own price offer. And in fact, we're going to be introducing just here in the next couple weeks the idea of different opportunities to use promotions. So I don't quite know what the team has planned for what the first promotion is or when exactly that'll drop. But hopefully, if you think the Pro stuff is a little bit too expensive for your taste today, we'll have some opportunities for folks to get a better deal here shortly. Peter Beans again is asking, I think, a different question. How can you ensure that IFTTT is secure, considering it has access to many of our personal accounts? That's a great question. And in fact, it's one of the reasons we oftentimes have to move a little bit slower when introducing new features, especially when they touch what we call the runtime internally. Security, and I think a better word for security is really trust, has really been something that's important to us here at IFTTT over the years. It's something that we don't make a lot of noise about. We don't have any security and privacy manifestos. We've really just preferred to kind of speak through our actions, do the right thing, and really kind of treat other people's data and their accounts kind of as if they were our own, and try to make sure that we were very careful about what we access, how we build features and things around that types of sensitive data. And so the way that we can ensure that IFTTT is secure is by continuing to put the processes and some of those kind of cultural things in place and in practice. One of the things that we really strongly advise anyone to do, or everyone to do, that is concerned about security, is to use two-factor authentication, and especially to use two-factor authentication that involves some type of code generator. So, starting to move away from some of the SMS-based two-factor authentication, because that's not quite as secure as the code-based stuff. And so I encourage you to do that today on your IFTTT account. Just sign in and go to the account settings, whether you're on web or the mobile apps, and set up that two-factor authentication. And I also encourage you to do that everywhere else. One of the things that we've seen over the last few months even have been a couple different kind of password, username and password database dumps, not from IFTTT, but from across other sites on the web. People that have accounts that they maybe laid dormant for 10 years, haven't changed their password. Basically you need to assume that if you signed up for an internet account anywhere in the last 10 years, and that account has been around for a while, the password for that account is probably out there. We don't know anything that someone else doesn't, as much as I think it's just safe to assume that. So not only should you be rotating and changing passwords, you should make sure you're adding two-factor authentication to every service that offers it. And if you use a service that doesn't offer it, you should be hounding them to let you use two-factor authentication, because I think that's really the closest thing to a guarantee for security that's out there on the web today. Tree4 is asking, why do our CEOs need to keep charging for services? Oh, yeah, damn those CEOs. Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. One of the things that we really kind of struggled with and thought quite a bit about last year when we introduced Pro was how people would react. How would we react if we were fans and users of something that was free that then was going to switch to being paid? And it's one of the reasons we tried to really find a middle ground where what you can do with it for free really goes above and beyond, I think, a lot of other premium or freemium type services. You can use 3 applets or create 3 applets, and you can use an infinite number of applets that have been published by the community. So there's still a whole lot you can do with it for free without paying. And we also work to get to a price point starting at $3.99 a month, and you get a discount if you sign up to do that annually for Pro. That we think is very reasonable. One of the things that I acknowledged and we've heard from folks internationally is that $3.99 in US dollars may or may not translate into something that seems affordable in other places. And so we're also working to kind of localize those price points, kind of given the different markets that are out there and the different currencies. Startup Sanatana, good to see you again. Hi, love the username. You're participating from Bengaluru, India. Very cool. And I appreciate that. I think it's Sanskrit that you pasted in there too. Welcome. Good to see you. Bnam11. Hi, Linden. As I asked in LinkedIn. Oh, sorry if I missed that. We need Instagram search query. Yes. I think we also talked about this over Twitter direct messages as well. It's on our list. It would be a killer query, and it's something our team is aware of. We've got a huge backlog, a spreadsheet of the new triggers, queries, and actions, and even in some cases, brand new services that we're looking to build, and that's definitely on there. So I appreciate it. Nick Deshpand. Hopefully, I could be butchering. I apologize. When a user makes a recipe, can IF recommend similar recipes based on that combination of services and triggers? Yeah, that's a good suggestion. In fact, we used to do some of that. You kind of either used or created what we call an applet now. We used to call them recipes, so no worries. But we used to kind of immediately after you enabled an applet, kind of recommend 2 or 3 different things that you might also like. One of the things we found there was that it was really tricky to build a recommendation algorithm that just made sense. We often ended up recommending something that was very similar to the thing you just created. In fact, in some cases, so similar that it was causing confusion. Oh, was the thing I created wrong? Is this a better version of that thing? And so we turned that off because of that. But we should definitely revisit that. One of the things that, frankly, we haven't really updated now for years and years, frankly, has been our recommendation algorithms and some of how our search is set up. And that's something where we really think it's kind of a low-hanging opportunity to make some big improvements quickly. So watch this space. So when we make those recommendations and how we make those recommendations, may not change dramatically, but my hope is the quality of those recommendations and the quality of the search results will change quite a bit here over the short term. Trevor, this is a follow-up. Let's see, if a customer doesn't want to pay for Pro, would you increase the applets? Yeah, and we've had a couple other people ask, and some people have suggested that perhaps 5 for free might be more appropriate. And I think, again, we're going to continue to listen. We've made adjustments already, a number of adjustments, both to the Pro plan and the free plan. So, we're not just listening and then forgetting or throwing away those ideas. We're really trying to consider what makes sense both for our customers and our business. And really, if we're going to put our customers and end users first, that should also make sense for our business. So, you're not the first to suggest we increase that limit from 3 to something else. And we're going to continue to listen. And my guess is we'll probably take action at some point, both to make the Pro plan more affordable and to make the free plan kind of fit what folks are looking to do for free, in the hopes that we can help them use IF enough and value the service enough to want to pay for it down the line. Startups Sanatana, friends from India, hello. Before asking questions, wanted to know, did the COVID-19 situation, second or third wave, at our place? Well, we're actually fully remote here at IFT. We used to be largely based in San Francisco, and I still think the majority of our team is in and around the Bay Area. But we're starting to get a little bit more spread out with folks here in the US, some in South America, some in Europe. And so, I think we're starting to kind of spread out a little bit. So, how COVID impacted us is quite different depending on where folks are at. In fact, it's one of the things that I think has had the biggest impact on our business and our personal lives. I think here in the U.S., at least, we've been lucky enough to be spared some of the worst of the effects there, because a lot of the folks, and in fact everybody here at IFTTT has frankly the privilege to be able to continue to do their work at home. So for the most part, folks in our team have been isolated and quarantined in a way that's allowed us to all stay for the most part safe and healthy. But a number of folks on our team have gotten COVID, and it's just it's a really tough thing. We made sure people have plenty of time to recuperate and everything they need to try to stay healthy. But yeah, it's one of the things that has just been so top of mind for everybody across the globe. And I think it's worth acknowledging that it just affects everybody in a different way, depending on their kind of personal situation, where they live, where they work, what they do, how large their family is. So yeah, we're definitely affected, but I can't sit here and say that we've borne the brunt of it. We really have a lot of different things that we're thankful to be kind of privileged for, and one of those is the fact that what we do is purely digital. So we can do IFTTT from home quite well, and we've been lucky in that regard. Sanket Kumar Gautam. Again, apologies if I mispronounced your name. You've got a feature request. It's Android action for detecting when phone gets connected or disconnected to Wi-Fi network, and toggle mobile data. The mobile data piece, I think, is the hardest part of that. We have a number of different Android triggers, I believe. I don't know if the Wi-Fi connect and disconnect, what the state that's in. I know we've had something like that in the past. But I think toggling the mobile data is something that I don't believe you can do as a native app on the Android phone. Frankly, I don't think you have access to that as an app on the phone. If I'm wrong about that, because things are always changing in terms of what you can do with some of those, native APIs, please send me a link and we'll add it to the list of things that we want to build. Our team, in fact, we've got a big chunk of our engineering team now working to build out some of those services and things that people have requested. And the native mobile app services, like the Android services, are one of the most popular things that people use on IFTTT. So would love any suggestions or pointers to how to make those better. Nick is asking, has IFTTT thought of horizontal growth, like a special IFTTT design light bulb, or smart water switch, or water leak detection? I think, there might be a second question. Maybe I'll tackle that first one first. So in fact, we've had a number of people, even some of our investors and advisors over the years, have really, pushed us to maybe do hardware of some sort, or do some other type of service that took advantage of what IFTTT already was. And our answer to that has always been, we need to be very careful about what we do beyond connecting services together. Our business, our core competency, our mission is all about helping things work better together. We believe that everything is going to be an internet service, and that likely there's going to be a large, diverse set of different types of internet services, different types of connected light bulbs, different types of smart switches. And we don't want to compete in those markets. We really want to help the brands on our platform stand out and be unique, rather than compete directly with them. And frankly, that's just a very different take. It's, this kind of neutral stance has been with us from day one. And that's just a very different take than what some of the other, at least the large tech companies are doing. In fact, folks like Apple and Google, they throw around this antitrust thing a lot. Whether there's merit to that and where that goes, I don't want to talk too much about. But I think one of the problems there is that they've kind of made the opposite choice. Part of what they do is look at what's successful on their platforms, whether it's the App Store or other services of some sort or another. And they kind of cherry pick, some of the most successful ideas and do it themselves. They're not always successful with that, but I think it just sends a signal that what you do isn't valued in the same way that it could be if a lot of those companies really thought of their platforms as much more neutral. And that's definitely something we want to do. We want to try to stay neutral. We think there's enough opportunity to build a business and a great product just around connecting other products and services together. And that's really what we're going to stick with. And I think that's the way to build the most possible trust, not only with the brands, but also with the users as well. So yeah, that's why we haven't done it. But if you have ideas and maybe there's a way in which we can help other companies get exposed to some of those good ideas for services that you might want to see either on IFT or otherwise. And Nick, I think you had a follow-up question there. Have we thought of a marketplace where customers can discover and order compatible products? So customers who purchase products can get applets turned on automatically or recommended and ongoing support. Yeah, we've actually tossed that around quite a bit, not only in terms of helping end users like find new products, especially some of the really cool kind of consumer smart home or IoT products. We dabbled in that a little bit. We allow the brands to, put different links on their service pages, to buy their products or visit their website. But we didn't really go all in. It felt like that, again, was maybe kind of pulling us a little bit further away from our core competency. We don't want to be the storefront necessarily. We'd love to be a cool place that people can discover things. But again, we've got to stay focused. So that might be something we tackle later. It certainly, I think it would still allow us to remain neutral. But it hasn't been a big focus for us. What is maybe perhaps a little bit more interesting short-term related to a marketplace is we're very interested in helping both the individual brands and services and individual users build their own businesses, whether it's their business as a Twitch video game streamer or a business as a startup looking to introduce or with products already in market. And so I think you'll be seeing hopefully some more interesting things there from us just later this year. And that label marketplace is something that gets thrown around quite a lot here internally at IFT. Nick, you admire the relentless focus. Thank you. Michael Harris, finally, you made it early. Oh, welcome. So your question is, will there ever be an iOS 14 widget? Yes, with existing buttons and notification center. Yes. Yes, there will be. In fact, one of the new hires I mentioned at the top of the session, we've hired a couple new engineering folks since we last did an AMA a couple months ago. One of those is on the iOS side. We've had just an amazing single person, Sid, working on our iOS app for the last 2 years. So if you can believe it, an iOS app that's got a Editor's Choice Award and millions of users has really only had one developer for 2 years. So that consider that we've doubled the development team, and I think iOS 14 widgets and a lot of the new things there, and even fixing some of the bugs related to the widgets are definitely in our backlogs. So hopefully you'll see that soon. I can't promise when, but it's definitely something I've seen people talk about the widget specifically. And the need to keep those up to date. So stay tuned. Duruva Jindal. Again, apologies. I've got to work on my pronunciation. You say I look like Michael Schofield from Prison Break. Oh, is that? I think I know what you're talking about. But yeah, it's probably the haircut. This is still my my COVID haircut that I do myself with a trimmer every few weeks. So yeah, you've caught me at a little bit of a scruffy time. So Will GA, will you please create a way for the webhook integration to accept more than 3 values? Yes, we've heard that before from a number of folks. Hopefully you're not one of them and you're bringing it back up. So, but we've logged it. It's in our backlog. It's one of those opportunities where we just got to spend the time to add some additional values. We tossed around, I think, getting whether it's 5, 6, or 7, trying to keep it around, 10 or less. But I think we've also, talked about doing some different things that may allow folks to have an infinite number of values or near infinite, and not necessarily be constrained by what's kind of preset in terms of the actual values that are available. So again, it's on our list, and I appreciate, please, even though I say a lot of this stuff is on our list, we really appreciate hearing it, even hearing it over and over again from the same people, because it helps us prioritize. Again, we're still a very small team. Our company is less than 40 people, and we just have so much surface area that we often end up having to make some tough decisions about what we focus on. And so some really good and really cool stuff ends up, I think, not getting the attention it deserves. And again, one of the reasons we launched Pro was to build a business that could really line up with our ability to scale our team and start to do some of those really cool things that we've put off over the years. So hopefully, no, I'm not just playing lip service to that. We're growing the team, and we're starting to really, I think, hit our stride and get to some of these things that we know people are going to love. Cyan is asking, your Steam webhooks always trigger twice. There's no difference between the code I use for Twitter, YouTube, or Steam. The Steam webhooks trigger twice. If you don't mind, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at @LTibbets, at LTIBBETS. And you can either hit me up publicly or send me a direct message, and would love to kind of get a little bit more info, maybe even take a look at the applet, how it's set up, and maybe what's unique about Steam. Steam is one of the services we're starting to take a look at to actually build a native service around. I think it's a really cool service. I'm a big Steam customer as well. So would love to take a look for you, Simon. Will G, hard question. Okay. As a Pro IFT user, do you adjust the weight or prioritization of suggestions from free versus Pro customers? Pardon me. Well, I don't know if that's such a hard question. We don't want to say one person is more valuable than another, but in all honesty, if someone is a paying customer, we're gonna listen a little bit closer, frankly. And I think that's, just transparently, I think that's how almost every business in the world works. That doesn't mean we don't value the folks. So the vast majority of folks using IFT aren't yet paying customers, and that's just fine. That our intention wasn't to convert a majority of our users to the paid plan. We really want to find the right balance of what people can do for free and what people can do with Pro. But in all honesty, in fact, the Pro users on IFT actually have a line directly to our community support team, and that team is growing as well. And so with suggestions or problems, they're now kind of interacting directly with the team that we've built to really take those suggestions and help fix those problems. So I think just naturally, the things that the Pro users are suggesting or the problems that they're running into are likely probably bubbling up to the top above some of the things that are being suggested by free users. Now, that said, we do also prioritize, especially on the kind of bug fix side, or if there's some kind of on-call or fire type issue, we do prioritize by the number of users affected. So if it's something, for instance, most recently, someone on our team fixed an issue with the email digest. So basically, there's a service called Email on IFT. There's another service called Email Digest. And Email Digest allows you to take like 20 tweets that happen during the day and just get one email with all 20 of those tweets or something like that. So it's an action. But we saw that those digest emails were going out in some cases hours later than people had set them up to go out. And that affected tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of users. And so it was easy for us to say, okay, well, we got to put this at the top of the list and get this fixed, because there's a lot of people out there having a subpar experience. And I would say that is probably the more important way in which we do prioritization here at IFTTT, is how many people are affected. And if it's a lot, then it often ends up getting special treatment. Ryder, good to hear from you, Ryder. Hello. I know you probably get frustrated being asked this constantly. Nope, not at all. I don't even know what you're asking yet. But do you have an exact date on when we'll be able to connect more than one Twitter account and Facebook page IFTTT? No, I don't have an exact date, and I'm not frustrated. If I was frustrated at all, it's really more frustrated, again, with myself, with our team, because we're still at a size where we can't do all the things that we know people want or we know that would be good to do. And frankly, this is one of those has been at the top of our list in terms of creating more value specifically for Pro and the Pro plan. But it's a big one. And so we made the decision at the start of the year actually to focus on some of the smaller issues, some of the things that had really piled up over the last 6 months or a year. No one of those issues being one that is just like as important or as perhaps impactful as the multiple accounts. But when you add them all up, like I said at the top of the session, we fixed over 600 bugs just in the last couple months. That's a whole lot of little issues. And so we think that was the right thing to focus on. It's almost always easy to kind of build the next new big feature. But sometimes you've got to kind of go slow to go fast, if you know what I mean. And so I think we wanted to kind of clean up some of those backlogs before working on some of the big new features, and multiple accounts is one of those. So stay tuned. Again, it's one we're going to build, and hopefully we get to it either in the first half of the year or in the back half. Eric, you're asking how many people work at IFTTT. Sorry, I might have answered that, but if you weren't here for that, it's just under 40. I think we're 37 or 38 now. Haven't done an official head count, and we've been growing a little bit over the last couple of weeks. So yeah, we're still a kind of a lean and mean, scrappy team. We really talented folks, and so we've been able to do a whole lot with a very small team. And I think, again, part of why we did Pro was we wanted to grow that team and do a lot of the things that had really been pushed aside because of that resource constraint over the years. Michael Harris is asking, will there be an actual IFTTT app for Mac OS and Windows, just for Wi-Fi triggers? There's a service, I think it's a service called Trigger Command, but you'd love to see an actual app in OS. That's actually one that I wouldn't say it's been on our list because it's something we've talked a lot about. But again, because of some of those resource constraints, we haven't been able to tackle. But I think you're actually onto something that could be really exciting, both on the OS X side and the Windows side. There's a whole lot of cool things you can do if you have kind of a natively installed app on those operating systems. So just like, our iOS app and our Android app really unlock a whole lot of cool things around like location and the photo roll. And like on Android, you can do things, with Wi-Fi and battery life. We're working on some battery stuff on the iOS side as well. So yes, it would be amazing. But I think to do it right and do it well, we would definitely need to probably hire 1 or 2 more people on each of those platforms just to get to that first kind of MVP for that product. So stay tuned. It is one we'd like to do, but my guess is we'll have to grow the team a little bit more to be able to tackle it. Nick is asking, sounds like you have an active user community. Is there a forum where users can upvote, downvote, comment on ideas? So the easiest way is just to mention me on Twitter at @Tibbets. I promise you, I take every bug, every idea, and it gets logged somewhere. I don't just respond and say thanks. So that's pretty easy. We also have really vibrant communities on Reddit and Discord. So just search IFTTT. I think they're both basically just called IFTTT on those communities. I can't remember the exact URL or subreddit. but really, really passionate and helpful folks there. And we're actually starting to ask some of the folks on our community team to participate in those different areas, not necessarily as some super official IFT person, but as someone that's kind of on the inside that might be able to offer some more information or some different types of suggestions to that community. So that would be a great place as well. Michael Harris, will there be folders for applets? Yes, users have been asking, in fact, begging is the word you use for this for a while, or some way to change color. So that's one of the ones that we'd love to get to. It's, again, kind of like multiple accounts. It's on our backlog. It's somewhere near the top. It's something we'd love to do. We'll probably start with something that's kind of a very simplistic, lightweight version of that. I almost think of them as like hashtags or labels or something like that that allow you to kind of organize and filter by a certain set of applets. So if you have some applets for home and some for work or so on and so forth. But yes, for folks with more than, really once you have more than 10 applets, it gets really cumbersome. I think I've got over 200 enabled applets now, and it's I can remember what I call a lot of them, and I can often find them if I search by service. But even myself, I consider myself an IFT super user. I better be. I really struggle sometimes finding an applet that I can't quite remember what I called it and quite remember what it does, but I know I want to do something to it. It's too hard, so we've got to make that easier. And then Faith Martinez, based in LA, new to IFT, you're a startup business. You created your own app that connects to a unit you invented. I'm guessing some type of hardware. And with the developer plan, does that include publishing our own applets? So yes, we didn't make a big announcement about this, but for developers on the developer plan, you can publish applets now. That was a restriction we had in place last year. Ultimately decided, given some of the changes with the Pro plan and the ability for free users to use an unlimited number of published applets, that just wasn't the right setup. We didn't need to limit it in that way. So with the developer plan, you can publish a service and you can publish applets. So have at it, and hit me or our team up if you've got any questions about it. I think we're getting almost down to the last few questions here. I think we've gone over by about eight or 9 minutes. So final questions if you've got them. Dhruva has a suggestion, it looks like. Because you have a small team and are targeting multiple platforms, use Flutter. It is a framework by Google where you can use to create iOS, Android web. Okay. Yeah, I think I've heard Flutter before, but maybe that's been used in a couple different ways. If that's anything like a React Native or some of the other technologies that allowed you to kind of build once and target multiple platforms, we'll certainly take a look. One of the things that we found in some of those, kind of build once, deploy across multiple platforms, is that you often don't get the same level of access to some of the underlying native APIs. Now that could be changing, and maybe Flutter does a good job of that. So I don't know. I'm speaking out of my ass here a little bit, but in the past, that was the case. And it's those kind of underlying native APIs for each of those platforms that IFT is specifically interested in. Like that's where we can kind of hook into some of the things that are happening on the platform and then unlock new triggers, queries, and actions. So, we're kind of different than, like a Twitter or an Instagram. The value that I think IFT provides by being on those other platforms. And, we talked earlier in the session about like a Windows or an OS X app. It's not just some new interface or some kind of convenient way to access IFT. It's what we can actually do because we're kind of a natively installed application on those platforms. And then what we can then expose back to users in their applets, the triggers, queries, and actions that we can build because of it. So we just have to be really careful about which technologies we choose, and any of the technologies that kind of limit that access or make that a little bit harder often aren't necessarily a good fit for what we're doing. but they could be for other companies. All right, I think we're final questions really worked. We got a few more here. Faith said, when publishing applets or services, is there a limit? So on the developer plan, I believe we still limit it to one published service. So you can't get one developer plan and then publish 20 services. I don't believe we're limiting the number of published applets on the developer plan today. Now, it's something we're talking about. You know, should there be a limit for the developer plan in terms of the number of published applets? But there is no limit today. And if we do introduce some kind of limit, we'll be really careful about how we introduce that. So you're not going to lose applets or have to unpublish something. You know, we'll probably try to, you know, help folks that have already signed up and published a lot of applets on the developer plan keep what they have. But, you know, that's an evolving space. You know, how do we slice and dice and make it easier for what we call kind of publishers internally, essentially brands or individual developers that are building services on the platform, to do a whole lot more, both for free users and for pro users. So watch this space as well. And, you know, would love any suggestions that you might have, Faith, as your team is digging into building on IFTTT. Will G, idea, all capital letters, for pro versus free is to keep the current webhook service at 3 values for free users, and then the infinite webhook key pairs for pro users. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, we've thought about a lot of different ways that we might slice and dice things between pro and free. But frankly, this is the first time I've heard this idea. It is a good idea, all capital letters. So yeah, I'll take this back to the team, but I can see where that might be the right kind of place to say, well, hey, there's still a lot you can do for free, but if you want a lot more values in the webhooks beyond just 3 values, then pro might be the right way to go. So that's a really cool idea. Thank you, Will. John David, is there going to be a new iOS widget? I'm not going to ask you to rewatch the whole thing, but we did touch on that earlier. Someone asked about that. The short answer is yes. We just hired someone new on the iOS side of things. Very excited for her to get going. She's only a few weeks in, but I think our team now is a good size to start doing more than just the bare minimum of things in terms of both adding new functionality, fixing older issues. So excited to see where that goes. And I think iOS widgets are on that list, or on that short list. Ryder, is it against the if rules, if there are any? We do have rules, but we're not, you know, sticklers, or we're not really harsh with them. We kind of try to stay flexible and listen to what people want to do. But if there are any if rules to create more than one if account, no. If you want to create more than one if account, that's okay. Obviously, that, you know, most CEOs probably wouldn't admit that that's a way to get more for free from IFTTT, but I will admit that that is a way to do it. I think the reason I'm not too worried about that is there's quite a bit of overhead in managing multiple accounts for anything. It's a hassle. And we think, you know, that ultimately the reason that people would want multiple accounts is actually more tied to the thing you asked about, Ryder, earlier, is multiple service accounts. So if you've got 2 or 3 Twitter accounts, or 2 or 3 calendars, you know, work and home and shared with friends or something, and you want to connect those different accounts to the same IFTTT account, I think once we have that in place, the incentive and the reason for people to create multiple IFTTT accounts goes down dramatically. So totally okay if you want to do that now. You won't be breaking any rules, or at least no rules that I know of. All right, Ryder, that was the last question. Thank you all for tuning in. We're looking to do these every 2 or 3 months now. We'll make sure and announce them ahead of time on Twitter. If you want to kind of stay up to date with new Ask Me Anythings, also, you know, new tutorials and videos from folks on our team like Ben and Andy, who have just been doing a killer job creating some awesome videos recently. Please click subscribe here on YouTube. And yeah, if you've got a question or a suggestion, or if I didn't quite get to your question, hit me up on Twitter. I'm at Tibbets on Twitter, and we'll try to respond to every single person. Thank you all for your patience and support for IFT over the years. And we're really excited about what's happening this year. A lot of momentum building. It's great to be hiring again. And we've got some really cool stuff that should be getting out the door just here in the next week or two. So stay tuned and thank you.